Hello, welcome back. It is I, Anthony Mueller, the wine advocate reviewer for Washington State and South Africa. Today, I have a very talented winemaker coming all the way from Walla Walla, Washington, to talk to us about some amazing Syrah that's going on that he is producing. Let's see if we can find Mr. Matt Reynvaan from Reynvaan Family Vineyards. Let's see, he's just about here. I hope everyone is having a fantastic day. Napa, the smoke is starting. Last night, the first time in a month, I was able to open up the windows. It's been rough. Hello, Matt.
Hey, Anthony. How are you?
Very well, sir. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me today. I know that 2020 vintage is upon us right now, and I'm sure you're a very busy man. So thank you so much for taking the time on your busy day to connect with us. For those of our viewers who may be overseas and aren't necessarily familiar with Walla Walla wines, could you please give a brief background about yourself and the winery for us?
Absolutely. First of all, thank you too for having me on here. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure.
So yeah, Reynvaan Family Vineyards. You know, we started back in 2005 and wanted to do estate vineyards only. So we planted vines under the guidance of Christophe Baron. And in that meantime, between when we first planted to when the vines would potentially be ready, I did a few stints at different places, some locally, L'Ecole and Cave Vintners, and then abroad over in Bordeaux at Chateau Smith-Lafitte in 2006, and then eventually came back to make the family's wine in 2007.
Fantastic. Awesome. So first off, let's bring us up to speed on what's happening in Walla Walla right now in 2020, as far as the harvest is concerned. What are you guys doing right now?
Yeah, so you know, about 5 days ago, we had the beginning of the smoke that was coming over from different fires around the West Coast. So we have been kind of hunkered down. It was too dangerous for our people to be out in the vineyards. So we've taken some days off, and you know, soon, very soon, we're going to get out and start picking some early lots, and you know, get going because it's time.
For sure. Yeah, it's been a very challenging vintage, I think, for all of the West Coast here, for Napa Sonoma specifically, and then it just this last few weeks, seeing Washington and seeing Oregon, you know, it's really depressing and terrible to see it, but it's a real thing, and climate change, global warming, it's a real thing, and there's going to be major challenges ahead that we need to figure out a way to work together and figure out how to combat this, because it's going to continue to happen, and we need to be ready for it.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree with you more, and I just hope we can all come to you know, figure out ways to mitigate and fight this, because you know, it's our future, it's our children's future, and you know, we want to continue to grow great grapes and make wine, but you know, these damages in these great wine regions, it hurts everyone.
For sure. Yeah. So 2020 has been a rough year,
Yes,
to say the least.
to say the least.
Yeah. I mean, with global pandemic, you know, economic tightening, and now wildfires, it's given us a kaleidoscope of challenges. What have you and your business been doing to keep business going while 2020 takes its ravaging toll on the global global wine market?
I mean, where to start? I think in the early phases of this, we were going to kind of a wait and see attitude, not knowing the severity of the virus. And as we noticed, you know, I had to cancel the trip to London because of this. And then when we were here, we started thinking about doing some kind of what we're doing here, but just me talking to people who follow us. And it was Friday tastings from Walla Walla with Matt, and we'd go to old vintages. And so that kind of it changed our minds on where we need to kind of the direction we need to go. You know, with the online presence, we're very fortunate that we have such a great following and a mailing list that is dedicated to us. You know, there are there have been some challenges with, you know, getting wines out to different markets, the restaurant scene that, you know, is very important for us.
For sure.
You know, that's incredibly sad what's happening for them. You know, but we've been lucky that we have a lot of direct to consumer sales. We did, however, have a newer brand that's a little more, it's a value wine that's, and it's more online presence. So it's the Unnamed Series by Result of a Crush, and it's, you know, it's taken off because it's a $25 wine that really is great for folks. So, you know, you have to make adjustments. You want to get back to normal, we all do. But for right now, the foreseeable future, we've been pretty fortunate.
Awesome. Yeah, there's certainly a lot of challenges, and what I see with some wineries is that their DTC game has increased in 2020, and for those wineries that were dependent on on-premise restaurant sales, they're really struggling. So it's smart that you already have a solid DTC foundation, and are working the internet that way. So,
yeah, we do our best.
That's all you really can do in 2020, I suppose.
That's right.
But yeah. So you make some really amazing Syrah that we'll be tasting here in a little bit. You come with a history of working with Christophe Baron. Can you talk about what you learned from Christophe and how it's helped you in the way you craft wine?
You know, there's so much to say about Christophe. I don't think this session is long enough because he is, you know, he is one of the best in our industry. Globally, I think he's going to go down in history as one of the best. So for me, to be able to learn from him and have him as a mentor was just one of the great blessings of my life. He is incredibly passionate, hardworking. You know, he taught me that, you know, as best as I can as an American, be a vigneron, you know, and really, he set us on a path that, you know, was a way in which meshed with how we wanted to see our brand, you know, a real family element. And, you know, being on the tractor, being out in the vineyards, like almost a Burgundian style, where you're in the mornings, you're out in the vineyards checking things, and in the afternoon, you know, you're in the cellar. That was something very important, and I've taken it to heart, and it's something I believe in now. So, yeah, he's one of the biggest influences in my life. Absolutely.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's tasting your wines, tasting his wines. There's certainly a different style, but the intention is there. The sincerity is there. You get the sense of place through both wines, and it's, you know, I equate this to, you know, giving two painters the same easel and colors and paintbrushes. You're going to end up with two completely different paintings, but both are really spectacular in their own right. But you end up with something just slightly different because that's the human touch of everything that happens. Once you take something that Mother Nature gives you, and then you take that and you make art and science out of it, it's something that is truly unique, and it's hard to replicate something again and again and again and again exactly the same way. It's going to be slightly different, and the wines that come from a specific place that have a distinct sense of terroir and sense of place, those are the wines that I find truly pleasing, because they show the vintage variants, they show the sincerity of what's happening, and you're doing a fantastic job.
Well, I really appreciate that. Thank you. It's something we strive to do every time we you know, try to create a wine. We want to show place and put our stamp on it. And yeah, thank you for saying that.
For sure, for sure. Awesome. So all of this talk about Syrah is making me really thirsty. I'll tell you what.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's. I think we should take some wine.
Okay.
We have two wines to taste. We'll first start with the 2014.
Yeah.
The Foothills Reserve. Syrah.
Foothills Reserve.
Awesome. Why don't you go ahead and introduce this wine and talk a little bit about it?
Absolutely. So the Foothills Reserve is on the property where our winery is. It's at 1,600 feet elevation. It's planted in two different blocks. One that goes east-west, one has a southeast-facing slope. And we planted it back in 2008, with the first vintage being 2010. This wine is 100% Syrah. It's aged less time than in the rocks wines. Noticed early on that there was a point where this wine wasn't gaining anything by being in longer periods of oak. It sees very little amount of oak. Depending on the year, clusters, whole cluster inclusion, it really depends on the year. So what I love about this is the brightness of this wine. I think it has this wonderful, old world characteristic that that we were able to achieve, from our vineyard here. And 14 was one of my favorite. This is one of my favorite wines I've ever made, and I'm just so happy that we could taste this together.
For sure.
Yeah.
Immediately, like you're struck with. It's a pretty dark, robust wine, but the nose, it has energy, it has richness, but it also has this nice mineral tension through the through the core of the wine, with that classic black pepper spice. I don't necessarily get that smoked meat. I get more like raw pork belly. That when it comes out, the chef brings that out, and you just get excited because it's going to be awesome. Yeah. For me, smoked meat is more like the finished thing, and it does have some of that smokiness, but to me, it's not the smoked meat. It's more like raw, pork belly, raw bacon.
We're getting into the gamey characteristics with this.
For sure.
This is absolutely that raw meat that is, and for some folks, it's not their style of wine, but for me, it's I have the people I always try to emulate from great wines, and the Versailles, the Allemands, that kind of style is what we try to achieve from our property up here. And
sure.
And some years it works, some years it doesn't work as well, and but this year it really worked.
For sure. I think you've captured that, but I think it's also been turned up, where they're at a 7 or 8, this is pushing 8.5, 9, 9.5. It's it's solid. It's really robust and rich and generous, but still has balance with good tannins and good acidity, which it's so easy, I find, for Syrahs and Cabernets to get this dark and this generous, and then just kind of be pushed that far and then fall over the edge, and it loses its sincerity. And yeah, it's beautiful, man.
Thank you so much.
I'm now trying to figure out what I'm going to be making tonight for dinner.
There you go.
This
will inspire some things.
There you go. So I'm the type of person where I don't make dinner and then try and choose the bottle. I choose the bottle first. This is what I'm going to drink, and then I plan the meal around the bottle.
Love it. That's awesome.
Awesome. As this opens up, there's this nice kind of savory, dried herb, lavender laced essence that gets this almost like this kind of crushed rock minerality that lingers. It's slightly crunchy on the palate. It's almost like crystalline, like if you're at the beach and you get a little piece of sand in your mouth, you're but it's not physically crunchy, but it has that vibrance, that liveliness to it, which is really, really nice.
Yeah.
What is your intention ultimately when looking at the grapes to create this bottling?
I believe in letting the less intervention in terms of how I make wine. But in the vineyard, I want to achieve balance. I want to have intensity, but I don't want it to be just a massive, bomb of a wine. I want it to have a beauty to it. What's great about this site is it has a wonderful natural acid. So we don't have to acidify or anything. It comes in beautifully fresh. And then it's just about, I think, up here we probably have 9 or 10 different clones of Syrah that we will, play with and separate and give options in, like a chef in the kitchen. You have all these different options and see where they go and what vessel they should be put in, and then you start to go to work on it. So that's kind of how we first approach it, and then we will be very aggressive in our selection for what makes it into the reserve, and we look carefully in the cellar. But most of our work, as cliche as it has become, unfortunately, is done in the vineyard, and so that's how we approach things.
That's awesome. Yeah, as this sits, I've had this open now for about 45 minutes, and it's been slowly opening up and evolving. And initially, it had like this beautiful like black raspberry spice essence.
Yeah.
And now I get this black olive that's like starting to like build on the undertone and kind of meet the black raspberry, which is really beautiful. I
love how that the tapenade characteristic that comes in this wine. It's just I know it in the cellar when I smell it. I just know I'm onto something special, and so that's I get very excited when I see a lot that comes in like this and has that kind of pure olive note, and it's one of the things I get very excited about in the new year, seeing in the harvest year about what's the potential, what's there. So it's always an exciting time.
For sure. Yeah, tasting this, like I know that it is literally the perfect middle ground for anyone who is an old world lover and a new world lover of Syrah. They will clearly find plenty of things to be happy with this expression. There's that crunchy minerality, but the freshness of fruit, not jammy, but fresh, ripe. Yeah. It's ripe, which is beautiful. I could just hear and smell this, man. I really could.
That is so fun about this wine in particular, because it does evolve so beautifully, and it's so refreshing as the aromatic is very unique, and it's our own estate vineyards that we do. So it's really my interpretation of what it is, and it's very, very exciting wine to work with.
Cool, awesome. Any other last items to talk about with the Foothills Reserve before we move on to the next?
I think that everyone who has some, keep drinking it, because I'll be doing my best to make more of it. And we have a new 5-acre parcel coming online that will be adding to the production for our list. So we're excited about that, to see how that turns in. And so that's about it. But,
cool, awesome. Yeah. Let's go on to the Stone Essence, 2014 as well. So same vintage, really, really, really beautiful stuff. So let's, if you can go ahead, and introduce it and talk a little bit about the intention and style, why you chose this wine today.
Well, I think this is a very fun tasting, because you can, we're in a unique spot where we farm in the Rocks district, and we farm in the hillsides of Walla Walla. And it's a great comparison of 100% Syrahs with similar upbringing, similar clonal selection, and you can see just the pure terroir between the two. The difference is striking. And that's exciting. That shows us, why it reiterates why we love Walla Walla Valley so much, because we just think we can grow some of the best Syrahs in the world here. So the Stone Essence, like I said a little bit earlier, spends more time in oak. It needs a little bit of time to develop the characteristics. So it spends closer to 18 months. And it's again kind of the selection of style. I think of this as more in the pure Hermitage style that has a little bit more viscosity, a little bit more savoriness, weight to it. And 14 was a great year to for this wine. So
Sure. Yeah, just smelling it, you know that it's more. It's bigger. It's more complex. It's more generous. It has a lot more aromatics going on, and there's it's slightly riper as well. I get more components of fresh black berried essence, and that dark red fruit that almost pushes into the blue fruit kind of.
Yeah. And I think what I love about our wines too is that we're able to, I'm very instinctual when I pick the fruit, how it tastes when it's ready to go. And the way that we do things, our alcohols are very balanced. I mean, they're in the 13s, 13 and a half. And I think that keeps that freshness in both places. But I really love that we're able to do that and have the weight that we want, but not to make it, jammy and too over, that's not my personal style, and
Sure.
Never want to do that. So yeah, that's one of the components we love about how we grow fruit too.
Yeah, there's certainly a riper, fresher aspect to this. But once it hits the palate, it is actually it's broad, but not dense.
Yeah.
Which is very pleasing. Makes it very food friendly, and you can drink, a few glasses of this, and not feel that you've just been bombed, and kind of spinning a little bit. It's very fresh. There's a lingering spice tone here that I find very pleasing. It has that same rockiness, but to me, it's finer than the Foothills Reserve.
Yeah.
It's really something special.
Yeah, I think over the years I've learned about a lot of it from Christoph about the style in which we do is it's good and it's okay to have nice tension in the wine. That's a beautiful quality that I think some people miss. It really helps to to make the wine more waves of things, and I think that's something we're trying to get better and better at. It's just understanding our vines and pushing it to the limits of what we can do. And so yeah
I think it's a very thoughtful thing to do, to try and take the scope of what Syrah is, capture its freshness, its minerality, its spice tones, its savory tones, but still keep it relatively compact where it's not overly hedonistic. So it is very food friendly, and you can continue to drink glass after glass of it, where it's not bombing you at 15.5. I've seen some Syrahs here in California 16.2. It's like, it went too far and fell over the edge. But what you're doing is it's keeping the sincerity of the varietal from the place where it comes from, and you've captured all the freshness, all of the possible expressions, and were able to bottle that magic, and it's really beautiful. It's been a few years since I've tried your 14s. I used to sell them many years ago, and wow, they're showing beautiful today. And
thank you so much.
I kind of feel bad that we've opened these, because they easily could have gone another decade.
I'm gonna have to dip into my dad's library to get some more, probably, but
right. I'm sure if you trade him some Viognier, some of the whites that you make, because he's an overt fan of all the whites. I remember that the last time you and I connected at your estate, that there was the whites opened that weren't even labeled yet, and halfway through he came in, was like, "Oh, are they the whites open?" And started pouring himself, and
yeah. Exactly.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Any other last topics to talk about the Stone Essence?
I think it's our, I wouldn't say it's our flagship wine. I think it's, it's become more of the collector's wine. I wish I could make more of it, for folks to enjoy it. But we have such standards here for what we want. I mean, anything that's not perfect, I will declassify if it doesn't make our cut line of quality. So it gets more and more. But I would love to make more. And, but I thank everyone who appreciates this style. And if they're able to see the comparisons, like we're doing right now, because it does show the range of the valley and just how wonderful, Syrah can be from Wallow Valley.
For sure. And these are no more than, 8 miles apart?
Yeah, like a little bit further, but pretty, as a crow flies, pretty close. So, it's wonderful to see, where the agriculture is going for vineyards in the valley. I think people are experimenting more. And, for a while this Foothills vineyard was, one of the highest, but now people are kind of pushing the envelope a little more. And so that's exciting to see for the future here. And, the Stone Essence, the Rocks Vineyard is just a wonderful vineyard that is honestly some of the most unique terroir around. So,
Sure. Yeah, it's very, very interesting driving through. Like, wait, what? Where am I right now?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you for sending over the 14s, the Reserve, Foothills Reserve, and the Stone Essence Syrah to taste. Really, really beautiful stuff. They're showing great, and I see some hearty red meats in my future for tonight.
All right. Okay.
Possibly some barbecue. We'll see. It all
it.
depends. It have to be a dry rub and smoked. But yeah.
I'm jealous. Sounds good.
Awesome. What initially was the intention of Reynvaan Family Wines when it was first started? What did you and your family first set out to do and achieve?
Well, I think it evolved from coming into the valley. We had visited with friends here, and my dad worked closely with Charles as his attorney, and so we knew Charles from a long way back. And I think when we started, we really weren't quite sure. We bought the property that ended up being the Foothills, looked at it, thought after some guidance from Christoph saying, listen, I would, if I'm going to be your consultant, I think we should start in, the rocks or the stones, as he likes to call them. So we ended up going down there and planting, with his guidance. He said, listen, I've been doing this a while. I want to get you guys launched in the right way. So, we would lay out the vineyard and talk about that. And then over the years, we would slowly plant more and more. And then it's all about style and what you want to create, because there's 1,001 ways to make wine.
For sure.
So we kind of went over stylistically, how we wanted to do it. And then as we started to, the wine started to get out there, we're in barrel and showing people, there became a buzz about all the wine quality. And, we just kept pushing the envelope. And I think with the guidance of Christoph getting us on the right track, becoming a proper estate winery that, that we could build and build and build and slowly do it. And he always would say, this is a marathon. This is not a sprint. And, so we ended up taking his advice very seriously and building it as such. And, it was great advice because we built slowly. We first did our first vintages at Cayuse, as a custom place. And then we were able to build our own facility. And so it was, really the guidance came from Christoph, and then we would talk as a family about our vision of how we wanted this to be, and we've come to, come to a place where we're very happy. We want to continue to raise our wines in terms of the quality, but in terms of expansion, we're not thinking too much. So we just wanted to keep on that tradition of kind of the old world Burgundian style of just the best of your vineyards, the wine, truly to be the most important thing. And that's how we live our lives.
So has Christophe influenced the way you look at your cellar?
My personal cellar?
No, like your wine cellars. So for barrels, using specific types of barrels from certain places, certain regiments of aging.
So Christophe, has been with us 2005 to his last was the 2019 vintage as a consultant. Mm-hmm. And we agree and disagree on stuff of raising of the wine. He's likes a lot of punching. So, I kind of like traditional style of barrels, but I have incorporated some puncheons. At some point when we expand, I think I've seen the success of concrete as a part of Syrahs. I think it's something I want to look into further. Mm-hmm. But I've had to come up with my own thoughts and thinking about which style I like the most, because our palates are very aligned in some regards and very different in others. So, sure. Yes, he's had a huge influence, but he taught me enough to, really make decisions on my own and trust my own instincts on direction of coopers and élevage and all that. So.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So currently you do not have any concrete
no.
in your cellar as of yet?
No.
If you were to start implementing concrete in your production, when do you think you would make that leap?
I would say when my mom opens the checkbook again to buy a new cellar, we'll start looking into it. Right now, we're limited in space, but I think we're going to be deciding on doing another building to have larger capacity for fermentation, and that's when we'll start looking into it. But no, I'm excited about the possibility, because I've seen people make wines, personally in concrete, in oak, the foudre, the uprights, so I have a lot of things, down the line that I'm looking forward to playing around with. But right now I just kind of work with what I have.
For sure. Awesome. Yeah. I see a lot of potential with concrete, while placing the Rhone varietals for Washington State. I think it was yesterday or the day before, Charlie Liebecker from Cardis Winery, he just received his Drunken Turtle. So he was super happy. He was unloading it on the forklift, putting it in the cellar, unwrapping all of it. And there's the way technology is going with fermentation science and vessels for fermentation, because Washington is such a unique place, where it is relatively dry and it has this kind of dusty, rocky element to it. Mm-hmm. Concrete, I feel, magnifies it and puts a really a focus on that, and it kind of turns up the minerality and a textural thing that just kind of builds naturally across the mid palate. Something that wood and oak just doesn't do. It imparts something different to the wine. And it's interesting because oak is far more expensive than getting a concrete vessel.
Yeah.
But there's something to be said about concrete vessels and the Rhone varietals in Washington. It's something very, very interesting, and it's this growing trend, and I see it, and it's definitely putting a lot of question marks over people's heads, saying, what's happening here? There's a lot of energy, a lot of interesting things going on. So
yeah,
please let me be the first to try any of your Syrahs in concrete.
Okay. I will.
Cool. Awesome. So where did your family see the business going ultimately, and how has it evolved over the years, and where do you ultimately see it going?
Yeah, I mean, it's evolved. We've evolved with the winery. You know, we take it very slow. We look at this as a multi-generational business. You know, right now, most of my immediate family is involved. You know, my sisters, my mom and dad, extensively involved. And, you know, I hope for the next generation we'll want to be out, you know, pruning the vines and, you know, getting out and learning about the viticulture and then the winemaking. And, you know, my son Pierce is, you know, he always likes to smell, you know, smell the wines. And, you know, so I hope it's in the blood, and I hope that that's where it goes. And, you know, I just want to continue to push you know, push the envelope of what we can create for Washington, because I think it's a magical place to, you know, to grow fruit and make wine. And I think, you know, honestly, the word is getting out a lot more so. But I think that, I think it needs to be more, because we are very serious people up here who, you know, make some amazing wines.
I concur. Talking with Christoph the last month or two, we had a discussion about every time he goes overseas, back to France, about how people, when he says, "Oh, you make wine in the United States," they ultimately think that he's from California or making wine in California. He's like, "No, I'm not from California." He's like, "Well, maybe he's from Oregon making Pinot." It's like, "No, Washington." Walla Walla is clearly making some really great world-class wines, and that is, like, to me, like the next spot. If anyone overseas watching this were to be curious about American Syrah, I challenge them to pick up a bottle of Walla Walla Syrah just to check it out and see what it's all about, because it's clearly performing at the very, very high caliber level that can compete against the top premium wines from around the world.
Well, thank you. That's what we're trying to do every year.
Awesome. So do you see any additional wine labels being added to the range of what you're already doing? I mean, you have the brand that's a little more cost effective, that's, you know, people are able to spend the $25 and ease into that, and then ultimately take a chance on the Reynvaan family vineyards, and then go up the ladder and spend, you know, what they want as far as the expression. But are there any additional labels that you're looking to add to the range of what you're already doing?
You know, right now we're very happy with where we're at. I think that I think Reynvaan will reach its capacity in terms of production, and we may, you know, venture out. You never know where things are going to go. But I think where we have a lot of fun is right at this particular moment is playing around with, you know, like last year we did for the 2018, I did 100% Merlot, right? And it's like 125 cases, but it was just so good I had to do it, you know. And so we're kind of playing with what we have right now. I see, you know, we still have some land for expansion that, you know, I think we could do something different on. In terms of brands, I really think the, you know, the next step is still to be figured out. But I think right now we just focus on what we have and keep building them.
Oh, yeah, one step at a time. Then it's good.
Absolutely.
Yeah. If you grow too fast, then you could topple over. And
yeah,
what you're doing now, don't change it. It's great.
Well, thank you.
It's you clearly are making successful, delicious wines that show the purity of the fruits and the place from which they grow. So.
No, thank you very much. Yeah.
So with that being said, since making 100% Merlot was a relatively newer thing for you in the last couple of years, are there any specific varietals that you would absolutely love to work with in the future?
Well, I think, you know, I have an affinity for making white wines. I really do love it. My time at Smith Hill Feet, being around those folks who are just geniuses with their white wine and red wine production, but that really opened my eyes to a lot. Christoph's probably going to be pissed at me, but, you know, it would be fun to work with Chardonnay, I think, actually. You know, I think I have I could do something pretty cool with it, but, you know, I need to find the right spot and, you know, maybe down the line, but right now it's tough to, you know, pull that trigger to see what we would do next. But I think that could be very interesting and challenging and fun, you know. So
True. But let's say it wasn't a business thing. Let's say like you didn't have your business brain wrapped around it. Have you ever tried wine from around the planet? You're like, wow, that's super good. I would love to just play with that and see what happens.
I'm not that adventurous, you know, in terms of I think it would be fun to make Grenache. You know, it would be fun to do a pure Grenache, but I just don't. I don't think I could jump into that. You know, I've seen. You know, Christoph makes a great one that I've seen him just pull his hair out over for, you know, it's so sensitive up here, and boy, when it's good, it's amazing. So yeah, you know, I'm not too nothing real crazy I'd want to play around with.
Yeah, Grenache can be tricky because it has a tendency to oxidize rather quickly, and the berries are quite big, and you're able to have sugar spikes which can spike your alcohol. So it's one of those things where it's very, very tricky to get right. His Grenaches are just insane. When I had him on for a chat a few months ago, I told him, I was like, you know, I know you're known for Syrah, but this Grenache, like, you could clearly make a name for yourself for Grenache as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of those things where, you know, looking at Grenache for Syrah, one has, I think, a touch more prestige to it, where the other one is sometimes more or less considered more of a blending varietal. But I see the sincerity and the complexity of Grenache from Walla Walla. But yeah, it's just one of those things where you look at the Rhone varietals overall, and they all do very, very well, in my opinion, from Washington State. And I think one day, maybe sooner than later, I think the Rhone varietals will begin to catch on, and possibly one day will overtake Cabernet in Washington.
Yeah,
that's still very, very far away. But I think in a lifetime, I think we could see that swap happen for Washington.
Yeah, that would be very, very interesting.
For sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. So ultimately, where do you see your brand in 20 years?
You know, I hope that, I think it's important to always be relevant out in the market. I hope people remember, you know, because we have such a direct to consumer following, that it's important to stay relevant out in the market and keep showing. But I hope that, you know, people start looking at us on the, you know, when they think of great Syrah in the world, you know, our name's up there, and I want to pursue that over the years to be considered, you know, among the best. And I want our family wines to be at that top echelon. So we just will keep striving to do that. But that's pretty much the goal, you know. Awesome. 20, hopefully 50 years down the line, you know, you never know.
For sure. So. Awesome. And your son is how old currently?
He's 2.5.
2.5. Okay, cool. So yeah. there's still time.
There's still time. Yeah. Got a long ways to go.
For sure. Awesome. Cool. So, you know, talking about people getting interested in Walla Walla and Syrahs, how do you think Walla Walla wines could become more prominent on the global wine market?
Well, I think that there are producers who have larger quantities of wine that they're able to get to these other markets. I think right now for a brand like ours that has recognition, that has quality, is hitting different markets, and people are reacting to them in very positive ways. I know we began early in Denmark and Sweden and further into Switzerland and now in Great Britain. And so, they're starting to get it, and they love the style of our wines, and they really, I want to expand that more. It's just production wise, we don't make enough to really get it out there. So, I hope that, that people think harder about Washington wines in general, globally, because, we have amazing place to grow grapes, and the wines are exceptional. And I think that, I think all of us need to get better, to be quite honest, though, is, we're doing well right now, but that don't rest on any laurels. We have to get a lot better to be out there. And I think everyone's going to step up their game, and keep making great wines. And then hopefully it will take its course, and, we'll be seeing wall-to-wall Washington wines all over the world.
I concur. I see the global wine market as like a marathon race. And although Washington State has been making wine for quite a number of decades, it's still relatively young in terms of the rest of the world. But it's off to a really, really sharp, solid start. It has, it's not the pinnacle of all the world yet. Hopefully maybe one day. But the thing is it's off to a solid start. The stride is strong, and the wines continue to impress me year after year after year. Just a takeaway from the last time I was out for review purposes. It was last year, and that was the very first year that Washington wineries hit the 1,000 number mark.
Yeah.
Where there was a major growth just in the last 20 years. With that being said, I agree. I think there's still room for improvement, but that all comes with time and experience. With that being said, there are still pockets, I think, around Washington that have still yet to be discovered. Small microclimates that have yet to be discovered. I mean, Christoph ultimately found one with his category vineyard. He just planted something and like, wow, this is really special, and just decided to do it. I think there's still more places out there, but Washington, and especially Walla Walla, has a firm stride, and just keep doing what you're doing because it's clearly impressive. And as Walla Walla continues to fine tune what it's doing, it gets better, faster, and on point.
Yeah. I appreciate that very much, and I think the whole wine industry appreciates that, because we all want to get better. And I think if more people focus, on, I'd like to see more people with the state vineyards working that way, really owning that. It takes it to a new level in your heart, and really being a part of the land. So I wish more would do that, but I think what people are doing still is amazing. But there's no, all of us will continue to just get better and better, I think. And like you said, it's going to take time, but we've got the motivation for it.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, and it's expensive to have an estate vineyard.
It is.
I mean, land prices are getting more expensive year by year, but those to me are the wines that show that great sense of place, and the heart, the sweat, the blood, the tears, everything that goes into upkeeping the vineyard, to grow the perfect grapes, to green harvest, to shoot thin, to harvest, and then take what Mother Nature has given you, and then turn into bottled magic. Those wines are the wines I always look forward to.
Yeah, no, very cool.
Cool. So I know it's getting about that time. I won't keep you for much longer. ultimately, what is next for you and your brand?
You know, right now I think it's we're going to see what continues to happen with you know, the world. You know,
Right. Yeah.
I'd like to see. You know, we were on a great path with getting our wines placed at certain, you know, fantastic restaurants and spots around the country and the world. And so I'd like to get back to that. So all I can really do right now is focus on taking care of, you know, the people who support us, our great mailing list and customers, and you know, try to get the wines out there as best I can. But you know, I think that we're just going to try to keep pushing the envelope of quality and you know, make every bottle that gets out to folks just as good as it can be. So
For sure. Yeah, I've said it before. I said it again. 2020 has become the year of pivot. You know, you're on the track, and all of a sudden it happens. And you're like, oh, we're going this way now, because that's what we have to do. Yeah. And you know, that's 2020 is making people wear a lot of different hats. It's handing us all these different hats. We got to wear them, and we got to wear them well. And yeah, I look forward to what you do with this year's vintage. So hopefully the smoke will subside and everything else will just kind of chill out. I was just beginning at the very beginning of the chat today that last night actually I opened up my windows with the screens open all night. Air quality dropped. It started at about 157 or so, and then over the day dropped down to 60, and then ultimately down to 15, down to 9. I was like, this is the freshest air I've literally had in like about a month.
That's great to hear.
It's yeah, it was amazing. I was like, oh my God, there's fresh air. It's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah. Cool. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day. I know you're a very busy guy and you have a lot of stuff going on. And yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. I hope you're doing well. Hope your family's doing well. And
thank you so much. You as well. And we really appreciate the honor to be on here with you. And thank you to everyone watching. So
for sure. Awesome. Until then, keep it locked here. The chat continues next Wednesday, 1 p.m. Until then, stay safe, drink well, and be kind to others.
Cheers. Thanks, Anthony.
Cheers.